If you were in New York in the 1970s, the city's pulse beat at Studio 54. Lights, music, champagne. And in the middle of that crowd, there was always a man dressed in black, known by one name. Halston, just Halston, no last name because he didn't need one. He was a name, a style, an era, a revolution. But no one could know back then that this man wasn't just designing dresses. He was redefining American luxury. This is Halston's story from the quiet towns of Iowa to New York's brightest nights, and from there to obscurity. 25 scenes, 25 fabrics, 25 dreams. And perhaps for the first time you'll see the man behind the single name. Roy Halston Frowick was born in Des Moines, Iowa in 1932. His father was an accountant, his mother a housewife. An ordinary Midwestern family. But little Roy was far from ordinary. He was making hats for his mother. Fabrics, decorations, ribbons. "You're so talented, Roy," his mother would say. But his father didn't approve. "Men don't sew," he'd say. Roy quietly continued, because he was born to create. In the evenings, he'd sit by the window, sketching designs on scraps of paper. His mother would find them tucked between couch cushions, hidden in drawers, each one more elaborate than the last. After high school, he went to Chicago, studied millinery at the School of the Art Institute. In the 1950s, hats meant fashion. Women went to church, to parties, everywhere with hats. Roy saw each hat as a sculpture. "This isn't just an accessory," he'd say. "This is identity." And his hats truly had identity. His instructors noticed something different. While other students followed traditional patterns, Roy experimented. He'd twist wire into impossible shapes, drape fabric in ways that defied gravity. He moved to New York in 1957, started working as a hat designer at the luxury store Bergdorf Goodman. This was a prestigious position. Manhattan's elite women shopped at Bergdorf Goodman, and Roy was now designing their hats. "I'm a New Yorker now," he thought, and he shortened his name, from Roy Halston Frowick to just Halston. It was bold, it was memorable, it was perfect. His colleagues thought it was pretentious. But Halston knew something they didn't. In fashion, if you can't be remembered, you don't exist. January 20th, 1961, John F. Kennedy's presidential inauguration. Jacqueline Kennedy wore a special hat that day, a beige, simple, elegant pillbox hat. Designer, Halston. The ceremony was broadcast live on television. Millions watched, and they saw that hat. The next day, everyone was asking, "Who designed that hat?" Answer, Halston. That day, a legend was born. The phone at Bergdorf Goodman didn't stop ringing. Women wanted the Jackie hat. But there was only one original, and only one Halston. Jackie Kennedy's hat made Halston famous. But he wanted more. "I'm not just a hat designer," he said. "I'm a fashion creator." In 1968, he founded his own brand, Halston Limited. The fashion establishment was skeptical. "Can a hat maker design clothes?" they whispered. Halston didn't answer with words. He answered with fabric, with vision, with revolution. Halston discovered silk jersey fabric. Or rather, he understood it in a way no one else did. Soft, fluid, body-hugging. "This fabric liberates women," he said, because previous fashions were stiff, structured, uncomfortable. But Halston's dresses were like a second skin. When women wore them, they could dance, they could breathe. "This is the dress of the future," said Vogue magazine. Halston had figured out something essential. Luxury shouldn't hurt. Beauty shouldn't require suffering. Halston's design philosophy was simple. Less is more. No embellishment, no unnecessary details, Just pure, clean lines. A dress should be cut from a single piece of fabric. Complexity is easy, he'd say. Simplicity is genius. And he was genius in simplicity. Other designers added more. Halston stripped everything away. What remained was essence, pure form. This was freedom. This was modern life. Until then, luxury fashion meant Europe, Paris, Milan, London. American designers were seen as second tier. But Halston said, America should have its own luxury. And he created it. American luxury, comfortable, chic, effortless. Not fussy European style, but something new. Something that fit American women's lives. We don't have to be like Europeans, he said. We can be ourselves. And the world listened. Suddenly, Europe was watching America. The 1970s were Halston's decade. Every celebrity wore his dresses. Liza Minnelli, Bianca Jagger, Elizabeth Taylor. If you're not wearing Halston, you're not in fashion, they'd say. His Madison Avenue salon became a pilgrimage site. Women would book appointments months in advance. Halston would appear, draping fabric on clients, creating custom pieces on the spot. He didn't just sell clothes, he sold transformation. Studio 54 was New York's most famous nightclub, and Halston was there every night at the VIP table. Andy Warhol, Liza Minnelli, Bianca Jagger. Champagne flowing, strobe lights pulsing. I feel at home here, Halston would say. Because Studio 54 was his world. Glamour, luxury, control. Or at least the illusion of control. Every night was a performance. Halston would arrive dressed always in black, and the crowd would part. He was royalty, the king of the night. There was a group around Halston, his assistants, models, friends. They were called the Halston Mafia. Joe Euler, Elsa Peretti, Pat Cleveland. All loyal, all talented, all devoted. We're a family, Halston would say. They worked endless hours, travelled together, partied together. Halston took care of them, expensive gifts, luxury apartments. But families, even the best ones, sometimes fall apart. In 1973, Halston made a decision that would destroy him. He sold his brand to Norton Simon Inc. for $16 million. But buried in the contract was a clause. The company now owned the Halston name, not just the brand. The IR name itself. Halston couldn't start another line under his own name. He'd sold himself. This is just business, his lawyers said. But Halston had just signed away his identity. In the 1980s, the Halston name was everywhere. Perfume in drugstores, handbags in mall shops, towels, bed sheets. Halston was written on everything, but Halston himself wasn't involved. The company stamped his name on products he'd never seen. This isn't my brand anymore, Halston told friends. This is a ghost. He'd watch commercials for Halston perfume and not recognize anything, but he couldn't stop it. He'd sold that right. In 1983, Halston partnered with JCPenney. Halston III, affordable fashion for everyone. It sounded noble, but the execution was disastrous. The clothes were cheap, poorly made, and worse, luxury retailers revolted. Bergdorf Goodman pulled all Halston products. You're not luxury anymore, they said. You're JCPenney. In fashion, you can't be both everywhere and exclusive. Halston had crossed a line, and the industry never forgave him. In 1984, Norton Simon fired Halston from his own company, fired from the company bearing his own name. This is impossible, Halston said. I am Halston. The company can't exist without me. But it did, because the company didn't need the man anymore. They had the name. The actual Halston, the creative genius, was now expendable. His life's work locked away from him by his own signature. Halston's studio sat empty. The Halston mafia had scattered. The parties stopped. Studio 54 had closed. He'd sit alone, running his hands over bolts of fabric. "I was once a king," he'd whisper to no one. The lights of New York twinkled outside his window, but he was no longer part of that glittering world. Throughout it all there was Victor Hugo, Halston's longtime partner. Venezuelan, beautiful, charismatic, wild. They'd met in the early 70s. They loved each other. But their relationship was toxic. Drugs, jealousy, screaming fights. "You're destroying me," Halston would say. "So are you," Victor would shoot back. But they couldn't let go. Love as shared destruction. In the mid-1980s, AIDS swept through New York. Studio 54 had closed, but the party was ending anyway. Friends started getting sick, then dying. Names Halston recognized. "Am I next?" he'd wonder. Every cough, every fever, was this it? The disease was mysterious, terrifying, and still unspoken. Halston watched his world shrink, one funeral at a time. In 1988, Halston got his answer. "You're HIV positive, and it's progressed to AIDS." Halston sat in silence. "How long?" The doctor couldn't say. Maybe months, maybe a year. Halston went home, looked around at his beautiful things. What was it all for? He asked the empty room. Halston moved to San Francisco to be near his family. His sister took him in. He was unrecognizable now, thin, weak, depleted. He'd walk in Golden Gate Park, watching life continuing. Once, a fashion student recognized him. "Excuse me, are you—" Halston smiled sadly. "I used to be." March 26, 1990. Halston died in his sleep. He was 57 years old. The official cause was lung cancer, not AIDS, because even in death there was stigma. The man who'd lived at the center of the world's most glamorous party had died in silence, forgotten by the industry he'd revolutionized. The funeral was small. Liza Minnelli came, tears streaming. "He was my best friend," she sobbed. A few other friends from the old days attended. But the fashion world's response was muted. The industry had moved on. There were new names now. Halston was already becoming history. But history doesn't forget genius. In the years after Halston's death, something shifted. Designers began to acknowledge their debt. Calvin Klein, Donna Karan, Michael Kors, they all pointed back to Halston. His less is more philosophy had become the foundation of modern American fashion. Every simple slip dress, every clean-lined suit, that's Halston's legacy. In 2021, Netflix released Halston, starring Ewan McGregor. A new generation discovered him. This man changed everything, they realized. The Halston name, which had been languishing on discount perfume bottles, suddenly meant something again. Not just a brand, a person, a visionary, a cautionary tale. Today, you'll still see Halston in department stores. The name has been bought and sold multiple times. But it endures. Because Halston understood something. A single perfect name is more memorable than any decoration. Halston. Just Halston. The man who made minimalism luxurious. The designer who lost his own name. The king who fell but whose crown still glitters in fashion history. Forever. So how do you remember Halston? As the genius who changed American fashion, or as the tragic figure who sold his soul? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, so you never miss another journey through fashion history.